Mr. Birla, Mr. Colao, thank you very much for speaking to BloombergQuint. It is a transformational deal for the telecom sector. But I suppose the key question to the success of this deal immediately over the next 5 years, 10 years, will be what is the underlying rationale? And I ask this question from a couple of different points of view. We are in a capital burn competitive scenario. Is this deal going to amount to a stronger balance sheet? Is it going to amount to stronger investment commitments in the years to come as your key competitor, which is Jio, continues to burn through large amounts of capital? Those are the two very important questions that I want to put to you from the point of view of Rationale. Mr. Birla, would you like to go first?
So I think more than the fact that you have a large competitor, what's more important is the fact that the underlying industrial logic of both of these companies and businesses coming together is rock solid. The fact that we will have, let's say for example, of many other things, 40% market share across the country, 35% share of customers across the country, 1850 megahertz of spectrum, which is very large by any standard. The fact that we will have lightning speeds for data in at least 12 of our leadership circles, and I could go on. So go on, and I mean, I could go on and on, but I think that gives a flavor of where I'm coming from. A huge complementarity in terms of we have strengths in certain markets, Vodafone has strength in some others. So very powerful combination driven by business logic. The fact that you've got a very strong competitor obviously has been a trigger, but if at all that has hastened the process. But that's not the fundamental reason for us to come together.
You were not envisaging this deal a few years ago, so clearly I could attribute it to the entry of Jio in this marketplace and the need for a stronger balance sheet, the need for more capital commitment. Will that come through? Because from what I can understand, the balance sheet, your press release says the company will be self-funded. I'm assuming that any additional capital will come from the Birla promoter side. I can't see why Vodafone would want to put in more money if Vodafone's in fact, using this to
well, let me quickly answer that and then go back to the logic. So first of all, we think the company will be self-funding. The company will start with a high debt level, but it will deleverage pretty quickly because we have assets, towers, Indus Tower stake that can be disposed. We have 10 billion of synergies, and these are synergies mostly on the network equipment, on the towers, on electricity, on things that we can, make it happen pretty quickly. And of course, we also think that the market will improve over time. So the leverage of this company will go down pretty quickly, and the partners are committed to supporting the company, but we think the company will be self-supported pretty easily. But let me go back to the logic thing. You almost seem to imply the logic is because there is a new competitor. First of all, let's give credit also to the old competitors who are still there, and they're still pretty good and pretty tough. So it's not that there is just a new competitor in the market. It has always been very competitive. To some extent, this merger is born out of the success of two companies. We have been very successful in certain circles. Idea has been very successful in other circles. And we both have around 900 megahertz of spectrum, and suddenly the complementarity in the moment of data, in the moment where the digital India implementation requires a lot of spectrum, makes this logic, which was in the make, very compelling. And suddenly we will be able to offer broadband in rural, in urban, in metro, thanks to a lot of spectrum. Nowhere we have a market share lower than 10%. In the whole of India, we are number one or number two. So this is really an industrial logic. It's not a reaction to any old or new competitor.
Okay, sorry, I'm sure that you all see lots of rationale to the deal, but my job is to question that rationale. So I'll ask you another one, which is to, ask you the fact that at a time when you need to be at your most agile best, because you do have a fierce competitor. Let's say you've always had competition, but Jio is very clearly changing the rules of the game, especially in the way it's burning through capital with all of its free services, right? So at a time when you have to react to that very nimbly for the next year, 2 years, because you've said calendar year 2018 will be the completion of the deal, the next 2 years, your management teams will be focused on integrating these two ventures. They will be focused on bringing together a merger of cultures as well. That's a huge distraction for any telecom player that needs to be able to react quickly to what's going on in the competitive scenario. So again, I question on the basis of that, the rationale for this transaction.
So typically in a situation like this, and I'm sure Vittorio has gone through many more such situations than we have a separate integration team that works only at integration 24/7, and the operating team is actually not really burdened with the whole operation of integration. That's how it's typically done. And I think it's more about connecting to the hearts and minds of people eventually. It's all about people, and as long as both our sets of employees are convinced that this is the right thing to do for the companies and for them, I think that that's where the crux really lies.
Okay, I want you to respond to that question, but assuming that your response might be similar, is Vodafone committed to bringing additional capital into this business, even if it means that both promoters or both shareholders bring in equal amounts to maintain their shareholding over a period of time? Because I can't see that. Your first press statement very clearly said deconsolidate. So it seems to me as if this is a clear Vodafone exit from India, even though you continue to stay invested as one shareholder in a combined entity. Will you be committing to bring more money into this business?
Let me put this straight and simple. This is not Vodafone's exit from India. We used to own like this of a company which was good but had a 22% market share. Now we own the same amount in a company which is bigger. So it is not an exit from India. It is a strengthening of our presence in India. This is the clear message that I want to give to everybody, and I gave today to my employees. And back to the question about integration, the first thing I said this morning at 9 o'clock to our employees was, guys, using a football, I'm not great in cricket, I'm more of a football person, I said, eyes on the ball, and don't forget who is the competitor and who is the opponent. And so and I'm sure that Kumar is doing the same. So we will keep the eyes on the ball. They have been very agile, we have been very agile commercially. Together, our job is to make the best management team, most agile, most reactive in the whole
Will
Indian
you
industry.
commit to more capital investment in this business merged
We are
entity?
committed to invest whatever is needed to make sure that with this 1800 megahertz of spectrum and the largest network in the country and the largest customer base in the country, we deliver broadband services to the whole of India. I think this is the commitment of the two partners.
So you commit to more capital investment in India?
We are committed to continue to invest. We always invest.
I'm just asking.
We always invest. Our
Yeah.
business is a business where you do invest.
Mr.
So if
Birla,
I can add, I don't think that looking at the projections of the combined company, it seems that you would require a whole lot of capital to be infused, because the self-generation of funds is very strong. But having said that, like Vittorio said, to echo what he said, both Vodafone and Aditya Birla Group completely stand behind this company, whether it is in terms of management time, focus, and obviously in terms of funds as well.
Okay, I'm almost at the end of my time, so I want to just ask you half a question related to this and one final question on the competitive scenario. The half question related to this is, you're going to have to bring in considerable amount of capital, Mr. Birla, to shore up the promoter stake in this merged entity from the current percentage, I think, which is 26, to an equal percentage, which is 35. We estimate that to be somewhere between a current $600 million for the first 4.9% stake, another $1.5 billion for the remaining 9% stake. That's $1.6 billion. Where will you bring in that money from over the next 4 years?
So I think it's important to clarify the second tranche of 9% is something that's an option.
I understand that.
Which is, sort of not something that we are committed to do. We would want to do, but we'll have to see how it goes in terms of funding, for example. Vodafone has committed that if we don't take up our holding, then the excess holding Vodafone will have restricted voting, and they will share the excess shareholding over a period of time so that we are equalized and we move ahead in the true spirit of an equal partnership.
So where will you bring the funds from? Sorry to interrupt you, but it's the pressure of time.
I think that it's very important for me to say that we're not looking to get funds from the listed companies of the group, so it'll have to come from promoter-owned entities.
And any plans on where you're going to get it from?
So I wish I could give you a pat answer, but you'll have to give me some time to work on this.
Okay, our final question, which was on the competitive scenario. It's an interesting situation in India today. You've seen Jio, a new player, come in and acquire 100 million customers entirely on the basis of free services so far. We'll see how that pans out once they actually start charging for their services in a few weeks from now. You've fought big telecom battles across the world. What do you make of where we are right now in India?
Listen, thank you for this question, because this is really the essence of it. Now, of course, you live in India and you see this Jio thing, and everybody thinks this is a completely unseen and unprecedented phenomenon. It is a remarkable new competitor, but to be honest, we have seen new competitors coming in many, many markets. Clearly, India is bigger, so the commitment that the new competitor has made in terms of money to India is large. Eventually, they will need to start charging something, and eventually they will need also to have service and to have other, elements of the normal, media and telecommunication operations. And that's where our strength comes, because we have strong brand, we have strong distribution, we have strong care, and we will have the biggest and, I hope, best network in the country. So, is it a tough competitive situation? It is a competitive situation, but it is as tough as other situations that you see around the world.
Mr. Birla, you want to respond to that as the last answer? The Jio competitive scenario, and you'll be fronting it with two brands. So
Jio is a competitor with huge, deep pockets.
Yes.
Great execution capability, and not someone to be taken lightly, obviously. It's basically about competing in the market, and it's basically about getting a share of the customer wallet.
Okay, Mr. Birla, Mr. Colao, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for speaking to BloombergQuint.
Thank you.